guys see me and hear me? Because I might have pressed a button. I just want to make sure that you can see me today.
Yeah, I can see you fine.
Okay, very good. Alrighty. Well, today we're going to get started in a seated position. So make your way there now. Good morning, good morning. Say hello to your mat. Take a couple of deep cleansing breaths. And just take a moment to come into your space. Take stock of how you're feeling this morning. And then tune into the breath. Notice if there's any places that feel stuck or choppy. And you smooth out the breath. And try and breathe slow. There's no place that you need to be other than right here. Good. Now take a deep inhale through the nose. Fill up the belly, feel the ribs expand. Lift up through the crown of the head, maybe you sit a bit taller. Open the mouth and sigh out the breath. Take an inhale through the nose. Feel the lungs, the heart lift. Get very expansive, but keep the shoulders dropped down away from the ears. Hold at the very top. And exhale out of the mouth. And once more, just like that. Make sure you're empty before you start to inhale. And then inhale breath. Try to gather in a little bit more space than you did before. Let this be the biggest breath yet this morning. Hold at the top. And exhale out of the mouth. Now seal the lips and continue to breathe in and out of the nose. You can flutter the eyes open and inhale the arms up overhead. Gaze up in between the hands and then exhale to cactus through the elbows. Squeeze the shoulder blades together. Gaze can stay up and just try and shift those inner elbows up towards the sky and press the backs of the hands down behind you. And release. Good. Now lengthen the legs out long. And try and get your legs as straight as possible. We're just going to come into Dandasana, staff pose. So really ground through the palms as much as you can. If you need to bend into the elbows slightly, that's okay. Maybe your arms are short like mine. Try and just press down through the fingertips or the pads of the fingers. Lengthen up through the crown of the head. Try and stay tight with the core, stacking the ribs over the hips, shoulders over the ribs, and pulling up through the crown of the head. And then keep your left heel where it is, pressing into the ground, and elevate that right heel so that it's to a hover. And we're just going to pump that right leg up and down, little pumps. Try and keep the right leg nice and straight, engaged. I'm just pumping here for about 5 more seconds. Should feel the right hip flexors start to light up. 3, 2, and 1. Release. Press the right heel down into the mat. Lift up the left heel, and then start to pump. Keep the breath smooth, breathing in and out of the nose. And notice if there are any areas that you're collapsing in the spine. Can you keep that long spine from tailbone all the way up through the crown of your head? 3, 2, and 1. Release. Very good. Now you might need to bend into the knees a little bit to really ground the palms of the hands onto the mat, but keep the heels down, pressed into your mat, and then press into the hands. Maybe you feel that your hips lift up off of the mat. And for this, you might also have to bring the hands to the center or halfway in between the knees and the hips. Press into the mat and then just lift up through the hips. Use the core. Lengthen through the collarbones, gaze forward. One more full breath. Just see if the hips can hover a little bit off the mat and release. Very good. Now bring the hands back behind you. Palms face, or fingers face towards your heels. Bend into the knees so that the soles of the feet are on the mat. And then start to elevate through the hips, aligning the knees and the hips. Maybe gaze up. One breath here. And then exhale. Try and send the hips through in between the hands, lengthening out the legs. Inhale to sweep the hips through the hands, pressing the hip points up towards the ceiling. And exhaling. Hips through the hands. Maybe you keep that hover with the hips. Inhale. Come into that reverse tabletop drop through the head for a throat opener if that feels good. And exhale to just sit the hips back down onto the mat. Cross over the shins and make your way into a tabletop position. And here, move through some cat-cows. Try and get into the body. Create any sort of shape or movement that feels good. And then make your way back to a neutral tabletop. And then bring the knees a little bit wider than hips width distance, not too much. Just an inch or two wider than hips width distance. And then send the hips back so that they're behind the knees. So maybe like you're about to make your way into child's pose, but not quite there. Bring your left hand a little bit forward than your left shoulder. And then bring the right hand to the back of your neck. And then open up towards the right side of your space. And try and chase that right elbow with your gaze. Just opening up towards the side of the room. A couple of breaths here. And notice what's happening with the hips. is that left hip point trying to come through or come forward of the right hip just to compensate for maybe some stiffness in the back. Can you pull the left hip back so that it's in line with the right, so that you're only going as far as you can go. You're only opening up as far as you can open in this start point here. Let's take one more breath here. Inhale. And then exhale. Can you tap the right elbow down to the mat in between that left hand and the knees? And then inhale to open up, chasing the right elbow with the gaze. And then exhale, tap that elbow down to the mat. Maybe hips shift back. Inhale, lift. Twist open and exhale. Close it off, tapping the elbow down. And once more, inhale to open and exhale. Tap it back down. Shift the weight forward. Replace the right hand down. And then set up for the left side. Bringing the left hand to the back of the neck, elbow wide. Try and keep the collarbones nice and wide, shoulder blades pressed together just so that we can keep an openness to the front side body. And then open as much as you can. Open up towards the left side of the room. And you might find that one side is tighter than the other. One side could be completely open and the other side not so much. So remember your hip position here. To keep that right hip point pulled back in line with the left. Couple of breaths just to see if you can open up a little bit more. Take an inhale here and then exhale to tap the elbow down to the mat, shifting the hips back. Inhale, twist open, and exhale, round down. Inhale to lift open, twist, twist, twist. Keep that right hip in line with the left, and down. And once more, inhale up. Exhale, tap that elbow down, hold here, and replace the left hand down. Come into your standard tabletop, moving the knees back into hips width distance. Inhale, cow pose, opening up through the front side body, gaze lifts. And exhale, round the spine, tuck the chin. Inhale, lift up, pull the heart through. And exhale, round the spine. Good. Now come up onto your fingertips and walk the hands in close to the knees. I'm going to turn this way. You can do the same thing on your mat. We're going to open up the side of our bodies through gate pose. So bring the right leg out to the side, grounding through the sole of the foot and the outer edge of that right foot. And then bring the left arm down underneath the left shoulder, coming up onto the fingertips. Or maybe you have a block handy, you can always elevate the hand on a block, bringing the floor to you. Reach the right arm up overhead. And take a couple moments here to open up through the front side body, pressing the hips forward, lengthening along the right side body by really grounding into the outer side of the right foot. Engage through the leg by lifting the kneecap up the thigh. And then if you want even more of a stretch along the right side, rib cage, then sweep the right arm forward so that the fingertips are faced towards maybe the back of the room, are now back of the room. And gaze up if the neck allows. 2 more breaths here. If the right shoulder is up towards that right ear, pull it back in space so that there's space in between the right ear and the right shoulder. 1 more inhale. And exhale, sweep that right arm down and allow that motion to carry the entire body back up to center. Bring that right knee back in and then left leg out towards the side. Set up here by bringing that left heel in line with the right knee. Really ground through the outer edge of the left foot. And then walk the right fingertips over to the right. And then lift up the left hand. Gaze up towards that left thumb. And see if you can tuck the tailbone so that it's angled towards the left heel. Notice how much pressure you're putting into the right hand. Is there any way that you can reach up with the left fingertips, taking away any unnecessary pressure into the right shoulder and into the right fingertips? If you reach up, 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 that forces you to engage the core so that you're not dumping any weight into that right hand. If you did so on the other side, sweep the left arm forward towards the front of your space. Keep the gaze up. Left leg super engaged. See if you can press those hips forward. About 2 more breaths here. Inhale. And exhale, sweep the left arm down until you're back to that center position. Lift up through the chest or place the left knee down and then walk back to an up and down position on your mat. Put the hands on your mat and then tuck the toes under, lifting the hips up and back, down dog. Down dog, start to pedal out the feet. Shake out the head. Find all the movements that feel good. Stretching out the spaces that we know we should stretch every day. And that's different on every person. And find your way to a static down dog. Gaze forward and to the hands. Make sure that the fingers are spread, the index fingers pointing forward towards the front of your space. And then drop the head back down. Allowing it just to hang. See if you can bend into the knees slightly so that you can lift up through the hips, elongating the spine a little bit more. And then drive down through the heels. If you can see your heels in between your feet, then just twist your feet so that they disappear behind the toes. And what can you do to light up your core? Maybe that means drawing attention to the floating ribs. Can you press the ribs in towards the midline? Or suck up that navel in towards the spine. Now this time, gaze forward, come high up onto the toes, and then take a journey to the top of your mat. Little steps or big steps, you choose. However you get there. Once you do, measure out hips width distance with the feet. Grab for opposite elbows. Again, allow your head to drop. There's no need to hang on to the extra pounds on the head. And then start to sway from side to side. This can be very gentle, or you can make it quite vigorous. Your body can handle a whole lot more than you might think. So maybe use your hips to propel the upper body from side to side. If it doesn't feel good in the hamstrings quite yet this morning, you're not 100% warmed up, then maybe you opt for a more gentle sway. Just know that you have options. And then drop the hands down towards the floor. Inhale for your halfway lift. And then exhale, fold forward. Bend into the knees and slowly roll up one vertebrae at a time. Keeping the head dropped, allowing that to lift last. When you get about 3/4 to standing, then straighten through the legs. And keep rolling up, articulating the spine, stacking one vertebrae on top of the other until finally we're standing up nice and tall. Roll the shoulders down your back. Feel the ground underneath the feet. Take a couple of moments here to take stock of where your center of mass is. Maybe it helps to shift weight into one foot and the other, and then find that even distribution of weight. Sometimes we don't even know that we're putting more weight in one foot or popping one hip. So as we take these few breaths here in a standing pose, try and feel for the energy of your feet grounding into the mat. And then allow that energy to travel up the body. And as you trace that energetic sensation up the body, see if you can engage anywhere that has gone loose. Engaging through the legs. Bring your way up to the hips. Can you bring the hips to a neutral pelvic bowl? Engage through the core. Lift up through the chest, but then allow the shoulders to drop down. Can you curl up the sides of your lips? Allowing a nice, subtle smile to come across the face. And see how light you can feel in the upper body. Good. Now if the eyes are closed, flutter them open, and then reach the arms up overhead. Cactus through the elbows. Take a slight bend in the knees so that you feel a sense of buoyancy here. And then start to do our twists. So exhaling to twist open towards the left. And then the inhale will come automatically as we twist towards the right, exhaling towards the right. Exhale towards the left. Inhale comes automatically, exhale towards the right. And then increase the speed here. Taking those sharp exhales out of the nose. Keep the cactus position to the elbows. Keep increasing that speed. Twist, 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 twist. About 10 more seconds. Three, two, and one. Slowly start to unravel, bringing the arms by your sides. And then again, coming into stillness, grounding through your mat. Just slightly opening up the palms towards the front of your space, closing down the eyes. And let that energy settle. Take an exhale out of the nose. Eyes open as you reach the arms up overhead, inhaling to gaze up towards the hands, push the hips forward, and then exhale, fold forward, hinging at the hips, leading with the heart, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward, plant down through the hands, step the feet back, and set up for an upper push-up plank position. Measure out hips width distance with the feet, and then roll onto the outer edge of the right foot. Inhaling the left arm up overhead. You can always modify by bringing that right knee down like a kickstand. But if you'd like the full posture, then keep the hips lifted up as high as you can, and maybe the left arm sweeps down and around for an extension of our side plank. Couple of breaths here. Really engage through the right obliques. Feel that lift. One more breath. Inhaling. And then exhale, close it off, bringing the front side body down into the mat. Coming into that upper push-up plank position once more. Slowly lower down so that the entirety of your body's on the mat. If you need to come down to your knees, to slowly bring the chest down, keeping the elbows in towards the body. Very good. Untuck the toes so that the tops of your feet are pressed into the mat. And then bring the arms out wide, or the hands out wide, wider than the mat, and then bring the elbows up. I'm going to go through oscillating cobra. So inhale to lift up through the chest, gaze comes up, pinky toes drive down into the mat. Exhale, roll back down. Inhale, lift, really engage those back muscles. Try not to press too much into the fingertips. Exhale, come all the way back down. Inhale, lift up through the chest. And exhale all the way back down. Very good. Bring the hands back underneath the shoulders. Again, if you need to use the knees to push all the way up to an upper push-up plank, then go ahead and do so. But if you want to tuck the toes under and count 1, 2, 3, push up to an upper push-up plank. Very good. Come on to the outer edge of the left foot. Reach the right arm up, side plank. Modify if you need. Take a couple of breaths here. Really lifting up through those hips. Again here, angle that tailbone down towards the feet. See if that can engage the front side core. Just a little bit more. If you did so on the other side, find that extension of right arm overhead. Close the fingers together like a swimmer and really try and face that palm towards behind you. Smooth breaths here, check in with yourself. Let's take one more inhale. Exhale, close it off, replace the right hand, and then lower down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This time, keep those hands underneath the shoulders. Inhale, start to engage the back muscles, not even pressing into the mat with the hands quite yet. Not until you really need it. Really squeeze the intercostal muscles, elevating through the heart, just lifting the gaze a little bit, and then start to bring more pressure into the hands so that you have more stability to hold yourself up. Couple of breaths here. Stick with it. Inhale and slowly exhale to bring your chest back down onto your mat. Turn the left cheek towards your mat. And then lengthen the arms out long by your sides, palms face up. Just take a moment here. Bend into the knees and windshield wiper the legs back and forth, releasing through the low back. And then as you're ready, turn your head back on straight. Pop up onto the hands so that they're underneath the shoulders. One more set of that cobra, that slow cobra. So really start to press into the tops of the feet. Engage through the glutes, engage through the low back and the mid back. Keep the shoulder blades pressed together as much as possible. Gaze shifts forward. Maybe you press more weight into the hands so that you can elevate the chest a little bit more. Can you hold this bent arm cobra for one more breath? Inhaling slowly. And exhaling to bring the chest all the way back down. Turn the right cheek to the mat. Lengthen the arms out long, palms face up. Take a slight bend into the elbows so that the shoulder blades can melt away from one another. And come into complete stillness. This laying on our backs is a really great way to feel where the capacity of our breath is going. And it helps you to send your breath a bit deeper because you can really feel the belly pressing into the mat and where on the backside body the breath is pressing up towards the ceiling. Good. So as you're ready, come back to center, press into the mat, and just like we did on the other side, come all the way up into an upper push-up plank. On your knees or not. 1, 2, 3, push up. Very good. And come into down dog. Inhale the right leg up and back. Exhale, bring the right knee in towards the chest. Shoulders over the wrists, round through the spine, tuck the chin, try and tap your chin to your knee. Inhale, three-legged dog. And then exhale, shoulders over the wrists, really drive that knee into the chest, and then sweep the right foot through in between the hands. Come down onto the left knee, and then bring the arms up overhead. Low lunge. Bring the right hip back, left hip forward. Really feel for that pull in the front side of the left hip. And then maybe the hips drive forward and the right knee drives a little bit further forward over, tracking over the right ankle. One more full inhale here. And then exhale, bring the fingertips or the fingertips down onto the mat. And then bring the hips back in space. Come into your halfway splits. Flexing through the right foot. Really keep the pressure down through the right heel. And try and shift the chest over the right shin. One more breath here. And then inhale, bring the right knee back to a bent position. Tuck the left toes under. Straighten through the left leg. And then bring the arms up overhead, crescent warrior. Sit down into the right knee. Stay high onto the left toes so that the left heel is hovered over the toes as much as you can. And then bring the arms like a T, palms face forward. Take an inhale to begin, and then exhale, twist open towards the right. So right arm moves back, left arm moves forward. Keep pulling back through the right fingertips so that you can track the ribs over the hips. Take a full inhale here and a full exhale to twist. And then sweep the right arm back forward. Inhaling through crescent and warrior. Gaze up towards the ceiling. And then exhale to open up into warrior two. Take a couple moments here to find the footing, pressing down through the outer edge of the left foot. Opening up through that right hip. Externally rotating in the right hip and internally rotating through the left. Gaze forward, out past the right fingertips. Notice where your breath is. And ask yourself if you're still in your body. What can you do to get more so into your body? Is it squeezing the feet together energetically to light up more of the muscles in the legs? Maybe driving the hips down, lifting up through the top of the head. Take an inhale here. And then exhale, find your way into a side angle or modified side angle. Right forearm down on top of the right thigh. Left arm up towards the sky. Sweep that left arm down and around. Find an extended side angle position. Keep the chest nice and open, stacking the left shoulder on top of the right, but not dumping weight into the right shoulder, rather lifting out of the right shoulder by engaging your core. Take one more inhale here. Exhale, bring the left hand down on the inside of the left or of the right foot. Come up onto the left toes. Come down onto the left knee, and then twist open towards the right side of the room. Drive the left shoulder in towards the right knee, closing off that space. And twisting from the low spine, gaze up towards the right finger or the right thumb. One more inhale here. Exhale to twist. And then bring the right hand down. Come up off of the left knee so that you have space to bring the right foot back behind you. Find downward facing dog. Inhale the left leg up and back. Bring the left knee in towards the chest. Move the shoulders over the wrists. Really round through the spine, tuck the chin. Try and tap some part of your face to the knee, maybe the forehead if you're feeling up to it. Inhale into three-legged dog, and then exhale. Really round through the spine, bring that knee up, and then sweep the left foot through. Come down onto the right knee. Set up the feet, pressing the top of the right foot into the mat, and then lift the arms up overhead, low lunge. See if you can really press into that right pinky toe. That might aid in the internal rotation of the right hip, pulling it forward, feeling for an opening along the right side of the hip flexors, and then bringing the left hip back in line with the right so that the hips are nice and square. Notice if the shoulders are moved up towards the ears, can you pull them back down? If you have the capacity to do so, then start to press both hip points equally forward. Like if my hand was on your low back, pressing the hips forward. One more inhale. And then exhale, bring the fingertips down. And then straighten through the left leg, bringing the hips back in space. And here, try and keep the hips square. Are the sits bones equally pressing back at the same rate? Or is the right hip behind you and the left hip forward? Sometimes here the hips want to open up towards the right side of the space. Can you pull the left hip back so that the sacrum is level? Take one more full inhale and exhale. Moving into any more space that you can find. Bringing your chest down to the center of the left shin. Inhale. Bend back into the left knee. Tuck the right toes under, straighten up through the right leg, really strong here, and then sweep the arms up overhead, crescent warrior. Notice if you can sit down anymore. Tuck the floating ribs in, elevate through the chest, and then open up the arms wide, palms face forward. Take an inhale to start, and then exhale to twist open towards the left. Gaze can be towards the left or maybe towards that left thumb. Bit of a balance challenge here, so stick with it. Slow and steady breaths. Deep inhale, exactly where you are. And then exhale, maybe twist a little bit more. And then sweep that left arm forward. Gaze up towards both hands. And then exhale, open up, warrior two. Get nice and comfy here. Getting comfortable in an uncomfortable pose. Seems a bit counterintuitive. But if you're breathing, it certainly helps. Usually if you start to tense up, or your mind is telling you to stop or get out, it might be an indication that you need to breathe more, sending more oxygen to your muscles, or to whatever part of the body that we're moving. And it's also a good thing to do when that happens, to take note of where you're working that doesn't need to be working right now. What parts of the body can you relax? Take one more full inhale here. And then exhale, move into your side angle pose. Reach up through the right fingertips. And then sweep the right arm forward towards the front of your space. Fanning open in between each and every rib on the right side. Compression of the left side rib cage. Feel those left obliques squeezing together. Feel the right obliques opening. Take one more inhale. And then exhale, drop the right hand down. Come up onto the right toes, drop down onto the knee, and then twist open towards the left side. Inhaling to lift up through the left fingertips and exhale to twist. Bring the left hand back down. Come curl the right toes under, straighten through the leg, and then bring the left foot back, pushing into downward facing dog. Bring the knees onto your mat, knees wide, toes touching, and then melt the hips down towards the heels, bringing the chest closer to the mat. Just finding a nice child's pose here. And right away, come back to the breath. Notice if the breath has smoothed out a little bit, or the capacity of breath of each and every breath has become a bit deeper. Either way, take this pose as a resting spot in the practice. Melt away any tension in between the shoulders, the back of the neck. Allow those hip muscles to release and the belly to drop. Just taking a moment or two to let your body relax. Good. Now take your time. When you're ready, press up into a tabletop position. And then send weight back, and so that you're sitting on your heels. And then pull the feet through so that we're setting up for a seated forward fold. Remove any flesh away from the sits bones manually or just walking forward with the hips. And then bring the arms up overhead. Deep inhale here, and then exhale, fold forward. Keeping the feet flexed, pinky toes pulled back towards your face. And a rounding in the spine is okay here. Really, this pose can be what you want it to be. It can either be, pulling to the hamstrings, or it can be more of a stretch to the entirety of the backside body. Start to lift up through the chest, and then bring the soles of the feet together to touch, Baddha Konasana. Interlace your fingers around the feet. Take an inhale to elevate through the chest, and then exhale. Press down into the elbows, meeting the inner calves or inner thighs. And give that same pressure back up into the elbows. And release, come all the way back up to seated. If the hips aren't in line lengthwise on your mat, then bring them there now so that when we eventually go back, your head will be on your mat. Start to rock your weight onto your sits bones. Lift up through the shins. Bring the arms out in front of you, palms face up, squeeze those shoulder blades, scoop everything up, feel for that liftedness, knees in towards the chest, and then exhale, lower, lengthen, and hover, finding that hollow back, that roundedness. Press the low back down into the mat, keep the legs lifted, shoulders elevated, palms face up, you can do it. One more full inhale here. And exhale, release. Good. Bring the knees to a bench position. About hips width distance apart. Cross the right shin or the right outer ankle on top of the left thigh. Figure 4. And use that right hand to just gently press the inner thigh away from you. So this is option 1. If you would like more, then you can lift up the left foot. Maybe interlace your fingers behind the left hamstring. And just go to your depth here. Just to a point where you can feel the outer right hip talking to you a little bit. And keep the breath here alive. We're still in control of each and every breath. And as your last exhale arrives, start to bring the left foot back down if it's lifted. Set the right foot back down onto the mat. And then swap the pose, bringing left outer ankle on top of right thigh. And just to start, even if you go for that variation, that second variation, press into the left thigh with the left hand. See how you might even feel those deep core muscles be elongated. And then if you'd like more, lift up that right foot, interlace your fingers behind the right hamstring. Keep both shoulders and hips on the mat. And go to your depth. Breathe into that left hip. See if you can physically create more space so that it doesn't feel like so much. Maybe you can even give yourself a little bit more by moving in that right knee. But it should just feel like sensation. And as your last exhale arrives, start to bring both feet back down onto the mat, knees still bent. I'm going to set up for a bridge pose. So start to just tuck the tailbone so that the low back is flush on the mat, and then start to lift up through the hips. If you want to interlace your fingers underneath the hips and walk one shoulder or one arm underneath the body and then the other. So really open up through front side body. Press those hip points up, 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 up. Deep inhale here. Soft exhale to release. Lengthen the legs out long in front of you, tugging on the heels. Bring the arms out by your sides, palms face up. Close the eyes, part the lips, and see how quickly you can let go of your breath and let go of any type of engagement that you have in your body. Allow the eyes to become heavy, sinking deeper into the skull. The jaw releases. The tongue moves away from the roof of the mouth. And let your forehead become still and smooth. If you need a place for your eyes to land, a good place to focus with your eyes closed is gazing up towards the middle of your forehead in between the eyebrows. Stay here as long as you'd like. Or you can start to take deeper breaths. Start to wiggle through the fingers and toes. Rock the back of the head from side to side on the mat. And start to bring the knees in towards the chest. Wrap the forearms around the shins. Give yourself a big hug. Grab for your shins beneath the knees and start to rock along the length of your spine until you reach a seated pose right where we started class. With a soft gaze or closed eyes, bring the hands to heart center. Know that this practice that we do on our yoga mat is 100% translatable to our lives off the mat. So the more introspection and compassion that we have for ourselves here, we can also have that for others. Take a deep inhale through the nose. Exhale out of the mouth. Thank you so much for making it to class. Namaste.